we're going to get started here. Welcome. I want to thank everyone for coming, especially our guests. It's great that we're getting everybody together to talk about our different DAOs and the different things we're doing in the space. ETHLDGR and I are ambassadors for Governor DAO. We've seen some other cool spaces like this, and it inspired us to host one as well. Our hope with this is that we can bridge communities, learn about all the different things we're doing in the crypto space, and educate our communities, network, and maybe even collaborate at some point. As we go here, we're going to start by introducing each project. Each project will take 5 to 10 minutes to give their pitch. And our goal is to kind of keep these questions in mind throughout the space. What is your project about and the hopes for the future? What specific thing does your DAO aim to do, or what problems does it aim to solve? And where do you see DAOs going over the next few years? Eve, do you want to introduce our first guest?
For sure. Thanks, Blake. Yeah, I just sent an invite to Mnema DAO, who's our first guest to speak. So whenever you're good to accept that, Ulysses, that would be awesome. So Mnema DAO seeks to revolutionize film production by acting as a decentralized central bank and social media platform for filmmakers. They will utilize built-in projected success metrics to gauge audience interest, while ensuring the creation of original content distinguished from Hollywood risk-averse rehashing of old intellectual property. So lots of exciting stuff going on in Mnema DAO.
Essentially, what our specific aim is to, we want to take power away from studios and give it back to creators with an emphasis in original content creation. And you look at, like, for example, Netflix's most watched show of all time, Squid Game. Squid Game took 10 years to produce because no one wanted to take the chance. And yet it's arguably the thing that has brought Netflix the most attention, and that translates directly to revenue. So for us, the idea is that we don't simply just want to take a chance because it is good for the portfolio. We want to take chances as a DAO because it's the model. You can see how profound original content can often perform, just in terms of the box office or in terms of the bottom line. Anyway, I mean, we don't want to simply just make film NFTs. We want to completely change the integral structures of Hollywood. Like if BTC is to overturn the banks or DeFi, then there is no reason that we can't find the methods to overturn the studios using DeFi and DAO structures. I also recently, this is very recent, and I can't say too much, but I am fairly certain that I've discovered a method of film financing that ultimately introduces both primitives and derivatives to the production of film, which is something that has never ever been done before. And I'm currently in the process of consulting with lawyers, trying to figure out how we can integrate that into Mnema DAO specifically. So maybe coming out with some kind of exchange, which would securitize, or which would make us a DAO that's also issuing securities. So we'd have to figure that out. But a primitives and derivative exchange that involves film financing, when the global film industry is worth $126 billion. The money is there, bull or bear market. Hollywood crushed it during the Great Depression when no one had any fucking money. So yeah, something that was prompted to me when signing up for speed dating was actually like where do I see DAOs going over the next few years? And I think like a lot of organizations, a DAO success is going to be based off of or heavily really based off of like the structures that are put in place from its inception, or maybe not even from its inception, just as it is built, as the community joins. I think structures are huge. And I think that can kind of be extrapolated to their future as a structure. I think that like they have the capacity really to be the most efficient form of organization. As like, you know, as many people know, like a DAO heavily rewards optimal game theory participation among all participants. But DAOs that don't have safeguards in place, like say civil resistance, or logarithmic voting, or, you know, I'm sure there are a number of other methods that I just haven't thought of or haven't been thought of yet. But I think not having those things leaves them susceptible to manipulation, or to manipulation and sub-optimization. So I think over the next few years, it's entirely possible that we see a DAO renaissance, really. I think that's something that really hasn't been explored as much as it should be among DeFi.
That's awesome. Do you have anything? I remember seeing some things with NFTs that you had going on. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. So we have a number of like NFT lines. I mean, one thing that I really wanted to do, I mean, like I said, like the goal is to give power to creatives. And there are so many brilliant artists that have brilliant work, and we want to showcase that. And then coupled with it, you know, I think it'd be cool to take a starving artist, feature their work, and then simply as being part of our Mnema DAO ecosystem, reward those people who buy the NFTs and support our artists with things like, you know, free digital premieres to the DAO funded content, and just overall perks. And then we also have our own NFT lines for specifically like what the co-founder, his name is Chris, goes by Atreides. But Chris is probably one of the best writers I've ever met. And he is currently working on a like 2 or 3 part epic called Black Crown. And the idea is that the NFTs are kind of to build out the world. And we definitely have a vision for building out a game, and then integrating the game and the lore and the film, really the cinematic universe, to the metaverse, especially as VR becomes more and more prominent, not just physically but culturally.
That's awesome. Do you have any timelines for that people should know about who are interested in your project?
Yeah, so our primary goal right now, our primary goal is we want to launch end of September. This is essentially end of Q3. Have, you know, thinking of doing the LGE again, but really open to other methods of launching. There's like Copper Launch, which I don't know if anyone's necessarily familiar with that. But yeah, the biggest one is launching in September. Soon, probably in the next like 2 months, we'll be showing. We have a partner. I should say we have someone we're working with who has sent us a pitch deck for a film that, you know, they're in control of, but ultimately, I mean, I think that the budget for it is only a couple $100K, and so, you know, it's very possible that should the DAO like the idea, like the pitch deck, we could go ahead and kind of prepare to vote on it. So that would be coming in the next, before we launch, that would be coming just to kind of show the community, hey, this is, it's very real. We have people lined up who want their shit made, and who have very real shit to get made.
That's awesome. Well, one last thing, tell people the best way to get in touch with you or get involved, and then we'll wrap up and head to the next guest.
Sure. Best way is to just follow us at Mnema DAO on Twitter, and then there's the link in our bio, take you to our Discord. We got a Medium, got a Telegram, but haven't been focused so much on it. I mean, Telegram's decent. I mean, unless you've got Sybil resistance like fucking GDAO, then it's pretty great. If you want, you can follow me. I'm, Ulysses. Catch me at Flesh Archon, one word. But other than that, just head to our disc.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate it.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me.
So our next guest is Bank DAO. So Bank DAO is building the first Web3 native consumer banking platform. Their mission is to enable wealth generation through the provision of education and opportunity.
Hello, everybody. My name is Amir Carlisle, one of the co-creators of Bank DAO. And as GDAO said, we are building the first Web3 native consumer bank. And kind of taking it back to the origin story, this project has really been my passion project. The one thing I always say is that, no one has passed away in my family and had any assets to pass down to the next generation. And it wasn't until I got to college that I really saw what, generational wealth looked like, where, kids, college funds were taken care of, their kids were taken care of. And it really began to become my pursuit to really change the narrative for my family and for my community. And so, in college, really started to dive into just financial literacy and really beginning to educate myself around, personal finance and understanding how to use money as a tool. And kind of as, throughout my journey, as I started to learn more and more about, money and learn more about investing and kind of that relationship to wealth, it really began to become my passion project to really pass forward that information to the broader community. And so, we spent probably over the last year and a half, really just diving into the question of why does the wealth gap exist, and why do these different financial inequality gaps exist within, the financial system. And really, we boiled it down to it was a systemic problem where, the banking system and the financial system as a whole, the interests of the system and the interests of the people were misaligned. And at some point, if the mission of the banking system is simply to capitalize, and my personal mission is to build wealth, at some point, the interest of the bank is going to trump the interest of me actually building wealth. And so got introduced to Web3, early 2021 or late 2020. And, hearing words like empowerment and ownership and really beginning to shift the power from the institution to the people, it was like, man, this really could be it. This could be the toolkit to really reorientate that financial system to really work for the people. And so really, taking it back to the question of why does the wealth gap exist? It's really, two issues we see. It's people are either under-resourced, which is an access issue, or people are undereducated, or it's a combination of both. And so, essentially what we started to look at is, looking at tools such as, a DAO and tokens and NFTs, really how could we use those to really reorientate that value flow of the banking system? If you sit there and you ask kind of the question of what does my bank do for me, typically it's pretty much nothing. There really is no interest rate paid back to the end user. Banks, kind of half-heartedly invest into educational programs. And so we really reap very little of the benefit within the system. And then kind of on the flip side of it is, what do we do for our banks? We generate interchange fees. Every time we swipe our card, we take out auto loans, mortgage loans. There's a lot of value that's actually created for this banking system. And so really it's about, how using a DAO, it's really about creating this two-way street of value where now money goes into the system. Banks, do the fractional reserve banking. They lend our money out and we get nothing in return. It's really about creating this two-way street of value where value created is value returned. And so really kind of in the core ethos of Web3, it's really about how can the consumer capture more of the value that they create. And so from, a resource standpoint, really it comes down to the redistribution of revenue. So we all contribute value to it, again, by taking out debit cards, taking out credit cards, taking out loans. And in a bank DAO world, essentially all of that value, that revenue is contributed to a community treasury. And on a high level, now you give the people an opportunity to dictate on how value then flows back into the community. And so again, it's that two-way street. Value created is value returned. All of that value that goes into the treasury, now we, the people, then dictate. Essentially, we are funding our own public good. And really, you give the community autonomy to dictate on how that public good is actually funded, whether that's educational programs, whether that's, charitable initiatives, whether that's new product updates, et cetera. But it really is about, really empowering the people to own this system. And then from the core of it, kind of breaking it down, that second issue of why that wealth gap exists, it's an educational issue. And so really everything is built around what we call kind of this proof of X marketplace. And essentially it's a learn to earn model, where you kind of have this two-sided marketplace where anybody can come in and teach on any different topic. You post an educational workshop, webinar, curriculum. It then has to go through kind of this vetting process through a vetters guild. And then once it's vetted and approved, anybody can then go on the platform and learn. And really it's that core learn and earn mechanism. That's really our core token distribution. And so essentially as people are learning, really our goal is how can we, now we're providing the capital to now provide the resources, but really the core of it is we now have to educate you on how to utilize those resources. And so really through that educational mode, it's now how do you create a new incentive model for people to really learn, build, and collaborate together. So on a high level, it's really about reorientating that value flow, where essentially what we're doing by creating this Web3, this consumer bank as a DAO, essentially you create a financial institution that's directly tied to impact, where profit and impact are now synonymous and not conflicting. And so, yeah, super bullish on the future of DAOs, and really, why I jumped down the rabbit hole is it's really about creating representative systems. When you look at our country and again, kind of those disparities within our country, it's because, individuals and communities within the United States have not been given a voice in certain matters and oftentimes been redlined from accessing an opportunity to really escalate the socioeconomic ladder in our country. And in a DAO world, we honestly and authentically can really begin to execute the American dream truly sought out to be. And that was to really provide equitable opportunity. And so really, what we say at Bank DAO is where equal access provides equal opportunity. And it's really about building it around this community of like-minded people that are really, from an educational standpoint, transferring knowledge, experience, and information from one person to the other. And then kind of on a high level, it's about allowing people to capture the value that they create. So that's kind of what we're building out, and super excited to be a part of this panel and really appreciate you guys for giving us the stage.
That's awesome. Really great explanation. Appreciate you joining us. Is there any timeline information about your project and when things are rolling out, or anything cool you guys are doing in the near future that you want to talk about?
Yeah, so from a timeline standpoint, we actually just finished kind of the core banking functionality of the mobile application. We're in the midst of building out kind of the core learn to earn aspect, probably be done in the next probably 30 days. And then we're also doing a private fundraise from some angels in the space. And so essentially our next step is really kind of meeting a capital bank. And then once that capital requirement is met, we'll be launching. And so anticipate sometime probably within the next two to 3 months that we'll be operating and have debit cards in the people's hands and actually be a functioning neobank.
Awesome. What are the best ways for folks to get involved if they're interested in your DAO?
Yeah, so Linktree in the bio, hop into the Discord. We're in the Discord every single day, answering questions and just engaging with community members. We also recently just dropped an NFT collection called the Bank DAO Founders Club. Essentially, that Bank DAO Founders Club NFT is really, that's the group that we're building this around. That'll be, our core, governance body that we really build around. That'll also give you basically full access to the entire ecosystem and full benefits within the actual application. And so, if you would like to be a part of the Bank DAO Founders Club, we are on OpenSea. Floor price is really low. So, hop in there. It's only 123 of those. So if you guys are interested, Discord and or, actually jumping in, check us out on OpenSea as
Thanks
well.
again for joining us. So our next guest is ESG DAO. And so Eric from ESG DAO is passionate and purpose-driven, forward-thinking learner. Some of the past work that he's done, he's been a chairman and author of the first sustainability standard in the casino industry. He's partnered with the World Series of Poker to help Harris communicate their commitment to sustainability in a fun and easily understandable way. Partnered with Esquire House and Poker Stars. And Eric's company, EGM Green, won the first ever eco-friendly award at the 2009 International Gaming Awards. Eric's focus is now on being that same bridge for sustainability into Web3 through ESG DAO and the Scubaverse. The floor is yours, Eric.
So ESG DAO was born out of a desire really to do what I've been trying to do for 20 years in the sustainability space, which is fix the sustainability space and effectively communicate the materiality of it to corporate folks. The ESG market is $41 trillion assets under management, well over a third of global assets under management. It's completely broken. Last week, we saw Elon tweet out about how bullshit the ESG market is, which is what those of us in the sustainability world or in the finance world understood for a long time. What should have been an on-ramp to this world, the carbon offsets, has become the answer because it's really easy. It takes almost no effort, and you just pay for a check mark. And so Elon, while Tesla popped off of an index, ExxonMobil is still right there. And I think that, to me, that perfectly explains the opportunity. Instead of people moving down the path of becoming more sustainable organizations at heart, they're just looking to get by. So ESG DAO is a way for a group of us, and we're new, who've come together from the renewable energy sectors and marketing to be able to buy projects that sit at the intersection of tax-advantaged financial results, along with social and environmental benefits to the communities that will serve. As an example, right now we are working on a fundraising deck to buy into some shovel-ready renewable energy projects. One is a solar project and one is a wind project, with the goal being that if we buy into enough of these projects, we can become a decentralized power company, at least to the coastal communities that exist. And let's start with the United States, where 40% of the population lives in those coastal communities. The people who are on our team span everything from the CEO of a solar company to the person who runs the hydrogen fuel program for National Renewable Energy Labs, and Suspicious Cyclops, who's here talking about Decentralia DAO. And so we've been, I participate on a standard development team through the United Nations called the United Nations Coalition for Digital and Environmental Sustainability. It's the UN's view on how their member nation states can transition into a sustainable digital age. And through that work that I do, we've been able to begin a partnership with the United Nations around our Learn to Earn underwater realistic metaverse game, which is also being worked on, called the Scubaverse. And the goal is to engage more stakeholders in a real conversation and push them towards action as they learn about ocean conservation, so that we can reach the Sustainable Development Goals. Specifically, number 14 is what the Scubaverse is concerned with, life below water. And we have partnered with a famous National Geographic explorer named Amos Nahum. Amos, for 50 years, has been visually telling the story of our planet through these crazy pictures of scuba diving with polar bears or with great whites out of a cage. And his goal now is to find the next generation of explorers so that this conversation can continue. And ultimately, the goal is really scalable decarbonization, which helps us to meet the goals set out by the Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change around temperature reductions. That's who we are.
Very cool. Thanks for sharing with us. Sorry about that. Same question I'm asking everybody. What about your timeline or your upcoming goals?
So we are working right now. We have another meeting with the UN coming up in a couple weeks, specifically with the person that heads up Playing for the Planet, which is the UN's partnership with game makers and developers, so that they can more effectively communicate in a way that kids can pick up and run with. We are working towards a Genesis drop of NFTs, which should be, I think, summertime for us. And after that, we are looking to raise some capital for project financing.
Cool. And what's the best way for folks who are interested to get involved with you guys right now?
I think if they reach out through Twitter at ESG DAO or at the Scubaverse, the link to our Discord is in the is in my LinkedIn. Sorry, Eric Hansel, and some of our members are here. I already mentioned Suspicious Cyclops, but Carrie, I see, is here as well. And she is an amazing artist who has been helping us, and she comes from the advertising world. And to answer the question that I think is coming next about DAOs, to me, having worked on standard development teams over the past 15 or 20 years, I notice a real similarity between them and DAOs, in that it's a group of engaged people all wearing different glasses coming together to solve a problem collaboratively that couldn't be solved in top-down structures. So I think DAOs are here to stay. I think that as more and more people understand that they don't need to go to work in some place for some company for 40 years to retire, and instead they can pick the sorts of things that they like and spend some time maybe with ESG DAO, some time with GDAO, some time with Decentralia. I think that as the mindset of people shifts, the popularity of DAOs will just increase.
Eth, do you want to introduce the next guest?
Blake, yep. So our next guest is Idea DAO. Jay is from Idea DAO as a founding contributor. He worked as an engineer and product manager for 13 years before diving into Web3 in 2020. So currently, Jay is working within a diverse team focused on testing and measuring ideas. And with that, I will invite Jay up to speak to give us more details on his DAO. Yes. Jay, how's it going?
It's going good. How are you?
Good, man. Good.
Good. Thanks for having me. As he said, I am the founding contributor here at Idea DAO, and Idea DAO stands for Invisibly Dope Experiences with Audio. And so the way this kind of came about was I was managing a Web2 agency, service agency, doing like end-to-end full service development for a variety of clients from enterprises to startups here in Seattle, Washington. And the more the team and I kind of dove into the rabbit hole of Web3, the more I began to recommend and suggest we all try our hands at our own projects. And from having our own projects, we will create like this tribal knowledge to kind of help each other across the board from a development standpoint. And from, working on different smart contract templates and, working on dApps for ourselves internally and for customers, we all kind of came up with very unique projects. And as many of you know who've experienced launching projects in the space, finding this information is very sparse. There's not a lot of aggregates of information on how to go from idea to launch in the space. And so each pillar of Idea DAO represents something different as well. So Invisibly is our investment arm. Dope is our service arm. Experience is our in real life events arm. And then Audio is our music arm. We love music and we think music enhances everything. And so we want to definitely, build and tinker around projects within that space as well. And so the way in which this would traditionally work and what we're still building out is the person will come in with an idea, but once you have an idea, you have to go through a similar onboarding process or vetting process of education. And the educational component is so key for the space because for this ecosystem to thrive and to work, we need to get more people in it. I mean, if you look at what happened across the past 3 weeks of things tanking, while things did hit rock bottom, we survived. And I think that's a very telling component of our market, of the crypto market in totality. And so as people kind of go through this process of learning more about the space, they'll receive idea tokens, but also going through it independently, but also being able to attract other people for their own idea. Now, this idea token will have liquidity to be able to come back and have an MVP for their idea be even further fleshed out within our service-based DAO, which is Dope DAO. Within Dope DAO, there'll be individual contributors, just like you see in traditional service DAOs, who may want to be founding members of that particular idea. And so it's helping people to team build, it's helping people to learn, it's helping ideas to kind of go through and flourish. Now, once that project has gone through the Dope process of being built to a second stage, a little bit, let's say past MVP stage, that's when the experience will come in. And through our through our DAO of experience, we will help to kind of cultivate and craft a unique experience around that product. So guys on our team, as an example, have done like holographic images for Coachella. We have a primarily really big 3D team and experiential event guys on our team who just want to help ideas come to life through an event. And then the audio arm obviously is music. And so we do have a lot of relationships with a lot of different entertainers and figuring out how we can kind of onboard an idea to be into the pop culture scene. So that's kind of like the ecosystem of each component of the DAO. So again, it's invisibly dope experiences with audio, but Idea DAO as a whole, as a standard, is really more of a public good. Like we want it to be something that the world owns. The world, similar to how Bank DAO earlier mentioned about how it's just a commons of public good, like a library. People can come, they can take from, but also give to. And so the more people we can use for that, using Idea DAO as an on-ramp, we feel we'll have a collective ecosystem that can continuously grow. Within that, there's lots of different components that we feel will. Oh, I did miss one part. So invisibly. So once you kind of go through the service, the experience, we'll be able to write a check of $50,000 or up to that particular idea if it meets certain criteria. So we kind of invest back into your idea financially so the idea can go and flourish on its own. So it's some people can say a Y Combinator model or a launcher or accelerator. We just look at it as an onboarding application process for anyone with an idea from Web 2 or just getting started in Web 3. And that's Idea DAO. So I guess also to answer the question in terms of what are my thoughts on the future of work or just the future of DAOs, I think that it's going to be an uphill battle. To be honest, I think that the DAO tooling, the design, like the UX UI experience around DAOs is definitely fractured at the moment. But with great people like Governor DAO, who's working on proof of existence, which I think is amazing. People can find these things, but it's still hard to uncover. So I think the more we can kind of connect and create these bridges of information so people can understand easily and onboard easily, I think DAOs will eventually be the future of work. As the previous speaker mentioned, no one needs to work in a job for 40 years. You should be able to have more choice and opportunity to go work and also allow your work to act as a force multiplier. So as an example, within our DAO ecosystem, we're figuring out ways in which, if I build this system for Dope DAO, well, maybe this exact same system can work across our Experience DAO or our Audio DAO, and that user who spent that, 12 hours, 16 hours, they can be compensated across the board in multiple for what they've created for that one slate of work. I've always thought in some DAOs, and I won't call them out, but as an engineer, if someone is incentivized for their 16 hours of work to complete something, and I spend 4 hours of work to complete it, but I get it done in better quality and faster, I shouldn't be penalized because I didn't put in 16 hours. I should probably be more incentivized because I did it faster and more efficient versus someone who took longer and didn't do as good of a job. And so I think figuring out answers and solutions around that is key. And the problem we're really trying to solve is, being able to handhold someone getting into the space and taking them through an educational process to learn, understand, not do it alone in the space, because again, we're still very early on. It can feel very lonely working within a DAO, especially in the beginning stages, and giving people the opportunity to learn and to grow.
Awesome. Absolutely. Could you tell us about any upcoming events or timelines related to your DAO?
Sure. So we have one product that we're launching at the end of July. It's a 3D configuration marketplace, and this is an idea that kind of stemmed from our process. And so with that, you'll be able to, imagine if your Bored Ape was a 3D asset, you will be able to import that asset and configure it even further, kind of like Nike ID, mint it, have new rarity, and kind of take that NFT on within the marketplace. So that's one project we're launching at the end of, in July. And then our, more material and information just about our processes will be available. We're kicking off for NFT NYC, so June 19th. We'll be kicking that off and taking that live, like our website and all of our Discords and things of that nature.
All right. Time for our next guest. So our next guest is Trigan DAO. Trigan DAO is creating blockchain technologies designed for urban living, the first urban blockchain designed for humans and controlled by their AI DAO. They aim to create an intermeshing of virtual and physical smart cities, which effectively care for and about their citizens, with the end goal of the creation of the first distributed country. So, man, the floor is yours.
Hey, folks, how are y'all doing?
Great. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for coming.
Cool. That was a bit of a mouthful. Sorry to give you so much to say at once.
It's all good, man. It's all good.
Okay, so we had a bit of a funny one. So we're kind of doing so much, we don't even need to pivot if things go wrong. But we're making a new layer 1 blockchain, which I'll try and cover quickly. Basically, it's got a new type of consensus where we're going with sort of a democratic approach, which goes between people and machines, and, well, it's all kind of cool. So we're working on that. But on the DAO side, that's the second layer to this. We're looking at making like the administrative side of an economy, and also say like urban centers, like cities, etc. So it does like it controls the treasury, it controls how people work, how machines work, how everyone's sort of rewarded. Also, it handles taxes on transactions through the layer 1 blockchain again, and also we're going to try and use people's resources on their systems, which is part of the blockchain again. So the idea here is everyone within, well, our citizens within our program, as it were, within our city, would all give value to everything. They would all do something to provide some value back to the economy, provided they can. The DAO would control everything regarding the economy. It would also make, say, robo investments based on DAO. Well, it's an AI DAO, but based on human votes, it would decide what to invest in. And there's also like a heavy real estate component here too. So it would control properties and handle leases, etc., on those properties, and that would all feed into the overall economy. It's kind of complicated, but another aspect here is working on a metaverse implementation, which is like a virtual layer to a city. And we're looking at this as, well, if you imagine like a virtual office or physical office. Okay, people are working there physically, but actually in the office working. But you have people there working virtually also, in the physical office, able to interact with the physical people, but virtually. But then we thought, well, maybe you could have like non-player character people too, or virtual people within the virtual office too. So then we thought, what if you could take the virtual people who aren't even real and bring them into the real world in some way? So we're working on that too. But yeah, it's kind of a crazy one. Would you like to take over, Ganel?
Here's Ganel.
Hiya. Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Thank you very much for inviting us today here. Yeah, my part of this in this project is more about because of my background in medicine and social science. So I'm more interested in how we can use the blockchain and health, and basically we are thinking about metaverse and how we can start clinic in metaverse by using blockchain and all this, and that's where my aim particularly about health and well-being. But Aaron, Aaron explained the blockchain side of it and all this AI DAO side of it. But my side is more about that. So we also thinking about like merging the metaverse and real world, so real world cities. Okay.
But one of the points that you brought up is interesting, because I was talking about this with a friend last night, is with like the virtual like clinics and stuff like that, because right now our healthcare system up north in Canada is overrun. It's brutal. Nobody has a family doctor here. It's really hard to get in to see anyone. So I think that virtual clinics and meshing those two worlds together with the metaverse and real life is going to be a much needed thing. So that's really cool.
Yeah, indeed. We thinking about starting with psychiatry, for instance. Starting was about looking into depression, OCD, like how we can do CBT through that, and also in general about that side first, and then gradually go, because once we have a blockchain ready, I will start building my own side of like my own team of doctors and medical team, on not just doctors and nurses and who's interested. There are already doctors who wants to come in, but I need actually first to make sure that we have blockchains ready so we can start doing that side of the project. But it's really exciting, and today we also had the conceptual artist showing us how the city will look in metaverse, and then in real world. Is actually very exciting to see how it all work together. When you visually see things, it makes you even better, like feel better, because you work, and then you see this how it's going to happen. Because we're thinking about the city will be more like environmentally friendly. We want it more like livable cities with caring about you, rather usually you care about the city, but we want to the city will care about you by AI DAO helping with not just big things, but with also small things in the city that you will usually have in day to day. basis, like, you know, hiring plumber or something like small things like that, which will save you time as well. So we actually want to build cities which actually will, you know, help you in any way possible, as well as not just in metaverse, in the real world as well. So yeah, it's very exciting, and when you see this is gonna happen, you feel even, you know, more exciting because you work so hard to make it happen. So yeah. Please ask questions. Maybe, you know, I'm so excited I forgot something to say. So
That's all good. It's all
yes.
good. Yeah, thanks again to Trigan DAO for joining us today. Let's move right along. Let's have Decentralia DAO join us on stage now. So Decentralia DAO focuses on decentralizing AI and data ownership. So Suspicious Cyclops, we'll bring him up to stage. He hosts Twitter Spaces as well quite often. He was actually part of the inspiration of this DAO panel, where he educates the community and does similar spaces, just educating the community on the space, on DAOs in general. So I'm just going to send you an invite now, and the floor is yours.
Anyway, hi to everyone. Awesome projects, everyone. I'm glad to hear that. Glad to be here in this room with so many awesome projects. So I wanted to start by saying that. I'm going to introduce myself very quickly. I'm Chris. I'm an AI and crypto entrepreneur, so to speak. I've been developing AI technology since 2015. I've co-founded 3 startups so far, mostly here in my local region. I'm from Chile, Latin America. And I've been working with my co-founders from India and the States on Decentralia DAO for the last probably 2 to 3 years, right? We started with a product that's called Mindstand AI, which is called the community-driven AI. Our central mission is to decentralize AI evolution and data, right? So to do that, we started by creating what we call the community-driven AI, which is called Mindstand AI, which is a personal AI assistant. Imagine like Siri on steroids. It's like a personal assistant that is driven by some of the most powerful AI models, conversational AI models on market, right? So we trained this AI to learn about finances, nutrition, fitness, and other 3 areas that help people sustain a balanced lifestyle. The idea there is trying to open knowledge so people can have the decision-making power to live a decent life without having to go necessarily to an expensive school that teaches economy or personal finances, like Bank DAO was saying a moments back, which I found really cool. And some of my co-founders are big executives that work on IBM Watson, right? So they really understand the problems of centralized AI and centralized data problems. And my other co-founder is from India. She's Leica. She's a founder of a mobile development company. Really cool. So we're all really data-driven people. I'm a computer science engineer, apart from all the companies that I created. So once we created this really powerful AI assistant, we wanted it to be community-driven, right? And we said, like, what is the best way to do this without having to run through our decision-making power and having to make it centralized? So that's when we started developing Decentralia DAO itself, which it's an umbrella for both the DAO and the community-driven AI assistant. And the end goal that we are pursuing over here is to decentralize the evolution of this AI assistant that is going to be under a voting method through a DAO, where people are going to be able to vote for the evolution of this AI assistant based on the different domains that the AI knows, and also get to monetize the collaboration on the data sets creation for this AI. But then we encountered the problem that we all very knew from a very beginning, which is the main element that I want to cover here, which is data. The problem with data is that its industry is completely corrupt, as you've seen from companies like Meta, Facebook, and many data brokers around the world. The data brokerage industry is an industry that makes more than $200 billion yearly. Only data brokers, without counting companies like Facebook into the equation. These data broker companies, for anyone who doesn't know, are companies who gather data very in many unethical and standardized ways, right? And they recollect data across many industries and sectors, and then sell this data to basically anyone who is able to buy thousands of dollars or millions of dollars of data packages from users. And users, of course, are not under the awareness that they are selling this data, and the appliances of this data, in many cases, end up being used for very unethical purposes. We all know the case of the documentary, The Big Hack, exposed for the election on the U.S., and how data was used for mapping where users could vote and the possibility for some kind of reaction. So those are kinds of the issues that rise from the unethical data usage that can end up in the manipulation of democracies, control of markets, and many other bad factors. That's one important case. The second one is that the monetization, like I said, $200 billion is an evaluation of the data brokerage industry at least 2 years ago. That has probably tripled in the last years, or not tripled, but that has really scaled in the last years. And that is an amount of money that is generated by users. And what we're trying to decentralize here is that generation of data should be monetized directly to users, instead of these data brokerage companies that not only use it for their own purposes to keep growing and to keep trying to have a complete domain of the data industry, but also end up in very bad hands. So through Decentralia, what we allow people is to not only control the evolution of an AI assistant, right, that is driven by the needs of the people, but also we created a system that allows people for data ownership. So through different data sources, people create data packages, and we are creating data ownership certificates for each package that users can generate. Then those data packages are incorporated into the blockchain, right, ensuring that people own certain data packages. And then through smart contracts, we allow data buyers, which are verified and have established ethical purposes for data buying, are able to create data contracts where people that own ownership certificates over data packages can join this data contracts and start engaging into selling their data packages for these data buyers, right, that want to buy it, right? And everything from the ownership certificates to the data transactions are all registered under the transparency layer that we have, right, where everyone is going to be able to look the data transactions just like any other transaction in blockchain. So that's how we're decentralizing the evolution of AI and decentralizing the data brokerage industry, so that people are able to sell their data packages and have data ownership rights from here on, right? So like I was saying, we are able to cross different data sources. One of them is the usage of Mindstan AI, the AI assistant, and all of the packages that you generate through Mindstan AI's usage, you're going to be able to sell under different prices, right? Because you're going to generate packages from finances, nutrition, fitness, and all that stays on your device, right, until you sell it. And at that point, you're going to be able to send the data package to the buyer. Other data sources that we're including, we're right now working on our Chrome extension, right? And we're planning to include new data sources like I don't know if you know this, but you can now start downloading your data from these different platforms like Netflix, Facebook, Apple, and others. And what we're doing is we're creating a platform, a deck, where people can upload their data packages and not only sell the data from the AI assistant's usage, but also from Netflix and other platforms that are going to allow you to monetize even more and more and more. So the end goal at the end of the day is to create a democratized system for AI evolution, a democratized system where people can see data transactions and can own them. And this is going to attack the end goal, which is not only to clean the tech industry from a lot of bad players, right, but also to solve the deep trust issues that have generated companies like Facebook, like Meta, with their really unethical methods to use users' data. So that's what we do, guys. We're called Decentralia DAO. And to answer the question of how DAOs are going to change the future. I think that was the question. I really think, I mean, the most powerful DAOs are just getting started, right? We're just in the beginning of this. Like many over here, I just can't wait to see what you guys and us are going to evolve to in the next 5 years, especially if we get funding, either if we're like VC funding or we're bootstrapped through NFTs or whatnot. But I really cannot wait to see what the next 5 to 10 years are going to bring to the democratization of some of the most controversial industries in the world, right? We're going to be able to decentralize data and AI. We're going to be able to create decentralized banks. We're going to be able to, and that itself, it's going to apply as a wave to many other industries that are right now are really centralized and really monopolized, and are going to be able to start benefiting people. So if we can create that along many other industries, I think the lifestyle that humans around the world are going to be able to have, it's going to increase significantly. I mean, we're going to be able to depend less on government benefits, right? Because we're going to have a base from the monetization that we get from all the collaboration across all these other industries. So, and that itself is going to allow us to live better, because we're going to be able to have more money in our bank accounts, but also the benefits that democratizing all these industries is going to have is that we're going to be able to live better, live happier, have cleaner oceans, cleaner data, cleaner technologies. So I don't know. That's my opinion, guys. And again, thank you for having me. We do have an NFT project. It's called the Suspicious Cyclops. To give a background on the story, and then I'm gonna shut up. It's a race of alien cyclops that created or really migrated to a planet called Decentralia because a company called Meta with an H at the end centralized all human life. So the Suspicious Cyclops had to migrate to the Centralia planet, and there they created the Suspicious Cyclops Legion, where they fight together to end this very tyrannic company called Meta with an H at the end. So that's a summary on NFT, guys. So thank you for having me, guys.
That's awesome. Thanks so much for sharing about your DAO with us. And you anticipated all the questions. So thank you again for joining us.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, definitely encourage anyone to check out the Decentralia Discord, as well as attend one of his spaces. They're always very informative. So thanks. Blake, do you want to do the honors of introducing our next very special guest?
Sure. Our guest is Jeff from Governor DAO. Governor DAO, through their Proof of Existence token and Governance as a Service, aims to set the standard for decentralized governance and biometric voting on the blockchain. Jeff has a lot of experience in the crypto space with a resume that spans numerous projects, news outlets, and agencies. In addition to founding Governor DAO, Jeff works as a core team member in a top DeFi protocol. His Governor DAO responsibilities include smart contract development, project planning, biz dev, and communications. Welcome, Jeff.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. And Blake and ETH, I really appreciate you guys putting this on. I believe very strongly that ourselves at Governor DAO, as well as many other projects, are designed in such a way where the more cross-pollination and collaboration we can get with other projects, the better. So I think this type of activity is a great way for everyone to mingle and learn about the other adjacent projects, and find out about new projects you might not have heard of before. I appreciate everyone for hopping on and speaking about their projects and listening in. I'll keep it pretty short. At a very high level, Governor DAO is a project built upon the notion that decentralization and DAO governance are good things when done right. You can unlock a lot of new ways to run an organization, to do it in a way that's more ethical, more equitable, and more efficient. I'm hearing from every single project today that spoke, they all talked about something that is important to them that isn't working right. Bank DAO spoke about personal financial knowledge and literacy, ESG DAO, speaking about environmental social goods, and so on. And the issue right now is that DAOs, blockchain, smart contracts is all very new. It's hard to do it right. There's a lot of people who want to do a lot of good. They see this notion of DAO as a way to do good, but there's not a whole lot out there to help you make sure that you're doing it in a way that's done right. And decentralization and smart contracts and blockchain is a double-edged sword. You unlock these really great values of equity and permission, a permissionless organization and autonomy, but you also have immutability and code is law, and if you do things wrong, it can have disastrous consequences. So what we do at Governor DAO is we help other people with different aspects of architecting and launching their projects, their governance, their fundraisers, all that good stuff. We're a bit of a catch-all organization. One part engineering. We have best practices in terms of smart contracts and Web3 front-end build-outs, and we can offer our own dev resources and our own contracts we built in the past, formulate them to make it work into your project. It's one part consulting. We have people that span different expertise, different backgrounds throughout crypto. We have a community that's highly engaged and very interested in DAO governance. And we can leverage that to help out newcomers and other projects that might not be as well exposed to different aspects of architecting their project. And the last part is we also we build our own solutions to problems that we see throughout the space. The biggest example of this is our proof of existence technology, which is a universal solution to the Sybil resistance problem. Over and over throughout all different aspects of crypto, we see situations where because we're in a permissionless environment, an anonymous environment, there's no way to limit individual actors. We see people who routinely take advantage of NFT mints by minting out with a bot, half the supply, or whales that will farm up an entire token or buy out an entire token launch, or adversarial actors that buy up a bunch of a governance token to pass malicious or maybe at the very least amoral governance that benefits them. And proof of existence can protect any project in any type of interaction from those types of behaviors. So at a very high level, Governor DAO is the service DAO built upon the thesis of let's help other people do DAOs right. And we have a wide range of different offerings and products that help people do that.
That's awesome. Is there any cool upcoming things that you want to talk about that Governor DAO is doing?
So we have this ongoing NFT mint with Robness that launched within the past couple of weeks. I'm donning the Robness Desktop Statue Systems Limited. That's the profile picture I have. So that mint's ongoing. Robness is one of my favorite artists in the space. He's one of the he's controversial. He's the guy who burned a CryptoPunk as performance art. He started the trash art movement where people are buying and selling JPEGs of trash cans for obscene amounts of money. But he's also someone who's been in the space for a long time. He was one of the people who were creating artwork for the Rare Pepe project. And so I've been following him for quite some time. We have a fireside chat with him on Twitter Spaces tomorrow evening, where we'll talk about the project, but also, or perhaps more exciting, is we'll have a good opportunity to have his attention for an hour or so and hear some stories about his inception and the rise of crypto art in general and all that good stuff. So that's been a very exciting process. And very excited to see how we continue that relationship. We recently announced an intent to work with Federal Reserve. They want to, or rather they need to, for their institutional build out, they need to have a way to authenticate that the people accessing wallets are who they are, but they want to do it in a way that doesn't require everyone to KYC, because no one likes that and that's expensive and inefficient. And we're going to see if some of our proof of existence technology can be repurposed for that. We have a couple of other really exciting conversations budding. I don't know if I can say names, but we have some interesting opportunities to do good work for other projects, and it'll be good work that will also help check off some roadmap items. And that back in our bulletin board, we have ideas of different services that Governor DAO could offer that we think are useful and impactful, and we might have an opportunity to build those out as a pilot, and have a productive contract for doing it. So there's a lot of really exciting stuff. I think there's been some exciting announcements recently, and I think there's a lot of good opportunities that are in front of us right now.
Definitely. Lots of exciting stuff going on these days. It's always interesting seeing how projects fare in a choppy or bearish market, because I think that's when you really get to see who's out there doing the work and really building something for the future.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. I don't want to say that a bear market's a good thing, because it's not. People having more money is better than people having less money, generally speaking.
Right.
But I do think there's this interesting phenomenon where when we were, for example, if we go back 8-9 months ago, when we were first launching some of our NFT deployment tech, we had a lot of projects that they said, we don't care what your tech looks like to protect distribution against a whale. We don't care about like the security of your context and your guys' reputation. We care about how are you going to help us market and how are you going to help us sell as many NFTs as possible. And people were saying that because money was just flying around like crazy. Now the people that we're talking to, I think, is a much higher signal. They're more interested in how they can build long-term minded, impactful projects. And that's obviously a much better fit for us at Governor.
Yeah, and now people care if their launch is getting ruined by bots or things like that, because the community gets much more upset about it when there's less money floating around.
Exactly.
So yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thanks Jeff for coming on stage and speaking. And thank you to all our guests today. We really appreciate everybody coming on, and shout out to Trigan, Decentralia, Mnema DAO, and Bank DAO, ESG DAO, and Idea DAO. Yeah, so sorry for the technical difficulties early on. It's work in progress, but we look forward to having another spaces like this soon. And we also hope to have you guys back to get more in depth with what you guys got going on your DAO. So with that, I will say thanks again. And Blake, do you have any closing remarks?
Just that folks who want to get more involved with Governor DAO, we've got Discord. If you look at the billboard at the top of the space, our Discord has recently been revamped. We've integrated our proof of existence technology into that as well. So folks who have a PoE token, there's a whole special section for humans only. And that's something we're pretty excited to be able to share with other communities and show that other communities can do the same thing, where you don't have to worry about bots, don't have to worry about even multiple users, multiple accounts for the same person. So yeah, there's exciting stuff going on. We also have our main Telegram that folks can join, and a human gated Telegram as well. So folks can also just reach out to any of the GDAO accounts Yeah, look forward to lots of great things to come in this space from a lot of great different groups.